Greetings, children, and welcome to my chamber. My name is Rotherick Gastblood, and I'm your host of Tales from the Dark Chamber. This week, we have a great show for you. Tales to make your skin crawl. Each week, my chambermate and I read a scary tale that we found on the internet, or perhaps left under some corpse. Either way, we think you're going to like it, and we're just dying for you to hear it. So sit right back, light a candle, and let's have a ghoul evening. So, Woody, I hear you're looking to take a little vacation. Anywhere special?
Nah, just anywhere. I need a break. I gotta get out of...
Oh, I know what you mean.
Oh, yeah?
Sure. Last year I took a trip back to the old country to see my relatives.
Relatives, eh?
Yes. Regina, Romulus, Rechidia, Rosferatu, Rodantia, Rostenfure, and Bob.
Bob?
Yes, he's the black sheep of the family. A real bastard, if you ask me.
He doesn't sound so bad. What did he do to get that reputation?
He's always asking questions.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm thinking of taking a long trip on a boat, or a train, or even a bus.
A bus? Oh, no, not that. Buses are so filthy, dirty places. No bathrooms. Have to sit for hours next to some wretch. On second thought, may I join you?
Sure, I suppose. Which reminds me about our story here tonight. It's another series about a young girl trying to escape her fate in Even Death May Die. Even Death May Die, Part 1, by R.K. DeWitt. Part 1, Escape. Generally, Michael stood alone beneath a flickering overhead light in front of a closed gas station, waiting for the 1 a.m. bus to anywhere. It was 12:58 a.m., and she had already been waiting in the cold December air for nearly an hour. No bags, no carry-on, just her cell phone, an oversized wallet with an undersized sum of money, $27 to be exact, an old can of pepper spray that her brother had gifted her a few years ago, and the clothes on her back. She hadn't taken the time to properly pick up her belongings since she hadn't planned on leaving so abruptly. But due to her circumstances and her clear lack of options, she did what she did best. She put miles between her and her problems, both physically and mentally, or at least she'd like to believe. She pulled out the phone from her pocket and checked the time. 12:59 a.m. Any second now, she thought to herself. These buses were rarely late. One of the few subjectively efficient things about them. She knew that she was close to escape, but she couldn't shake the fear she had of him finding her before she boarded. She imagined him pulling into the parking lot recklessly and stupidly fast. He always drove like that when he was angry. He would hop out of his truck and speed towards her, closing the distance before she could plot a route of escape. He'd look around to see if anyone was around. If not, he'd scream and call her a stupid cunt. If someone was in earshot, he'd still call her that, but through clenched teeth and a quieter, less noticeable tone. She'd prefer the former. She had noticed that if he had to suppress his rage around people, then when he got her alone, his wrath was worse, and often more tangible consequences. She unlocked, then glanced at her phone again nervously. 1:01 a.m. "Where the fuck is this damn bus?" she asked aloud, a wisp of nearly translucent smoke erupting from her mouth. "Just my fucking luck. Go fucking figure." Jenna Lee looked up at the night sky, then down to snow-covered ground beneath her and began to cry. It wasn't fair. Why her? She asked this question often in the direction of the sky, never even a well-timed gust of wind in response. No source of hope to cling on to, no convincing signs from beyond that gave her suffering a reason. She was tired in her bones of pointless tribulation and felt her sanity would soon unravel. She heard the slow and gaining sound of wheels turning on snow, and suddenly her heart sank. She slowly brought her gaze up towards the road, clutching the can of pepper spray in dreaded anticipation. It was a bus, a little over 2 minutes behind schedule, barreling down the road and towards the gas station. Jenna Lee let out an audible sigh as her lips quivered with a mix of relief and gratitude. "Thank Christ," she said aloud to herself as she shoved the phone back into her pocket from whence it came. The bus quickly turned into the gas station's lot, pulled up underneath the flickering light dangling above Jenna Lee's head, then came to a screeching and abrupt stop before its doors opened before her with a hiss. She quickly stepped onto the bus, head down as she traversed the metal spiky stairs. As she reached the top, she lifted her gaze and was met by 2 small slits for eyes, hidden behind sagging, aged skin and thick, large lenses. The bus driver was old, older than Jenna Lee had ever imagined a bus driver could be. The old woman with frizzy, curly auburn hair that reminded her of Rhea Perlman circa 1985, only longer, with visibly more intent of hiding gray dead ends. The woman spoke in a shrilly boom, seemingly unaware of her immense volume. "Hey there, honey," the driver said loudly. "That'll be 25 tonight. It's a 300-mile drive, no stops. Well, barring a whiteout, that is, but lucky for us, the forecast is relatively clear. Y'all good and ready?" Jenna Lee smiled and nodded as she hastily pulled the money from her wallet. She put the 2 singles she had remaining back into the wallet before returning her flustered visage towards the seats. A few rows back from the front of the bus on the left was an elderly man, probably in his 70s. He wore a forest green Mr. Rogers-style cardigan. Upon the tip of his large, protruding nose rested a too small for his face pair of wired and crooked glasses. He glared at Jenna Lee with angry eyes and an expression that shouted his impatience. Behind him, another 3 seats back, was a pretty middle-aged woman reading a picture book to a wide-eyed girl around 5 with a brown mop top. She smiled as she pointed out the pictures and enthusiastically read the book in an endless plethora of shifting and whimsical voices. At the very back of the bus was a young woman in a soldier's getup, full camo, hat and boots to match. She was leaning back, feet up with her cap over her eyes, arms crossed. "Why don't you go on and get settled for the long haul, honey?" The voice of the driver snapped Jenna Lee back into the present. "Okay," she responded with a nod and a smile. She quickly trotted to the seat closest to her, the first seat on the right, directly behind the driver, and plopped down. She didn't realize how tired her legs were, how tired she was standing for a long time as she had been. Before she could process anything else, the driver spoke once more. "All righty then. Last stop of the night. On to the road again we go," the driver said as she shut the sliding doors with a satisfying hiss, a hiss that filled Jenna Lee with an impossible relief. The driver put the bus into drive, rotated the steering wheel, and slowly began to pick up speed. First a crawl through the lot, a brief stop, and then a speed walk as it turned into the dark, snowy road, before becoming a steady jog, then at last a beautiful sprint. With each passing moment of acceleration, Jenna found herself loosening her grip on the can of pepper spray inside her pocket, until at last she no longer felt the urge to hold it at all. The fear that she had of him finding her had all but vanished for the first time in a long while. When was the last time she had been free like this? Probably not since Jason, she thought to herself. Her brother would never let anyone hurt her like Charlie had. She missed him more than ever in those moments she felt helpless, which was the majority of her days of late. No longer, though, she had reached the limit of what she could handle. It was only a matter of time before he would end up killing her. She often wondered if that was the reason she had stayed with Charlie for as long as she had. Maybe she wanted to die. Maybe she couldn't handle the world without Jason, or if she could, maybe she didn't want to. She knew that Jason would have wanted her to stay alive, though, and this was the driving force behind her newfound reasoning. She had rediscovered her will to live after Charlie, in a fit of rage, slapped her so hard across the face that she flew into a dresser and crashed onto the ground, gripping her bleeding face in pain. As she cried on the floor, an old picture of her and Jason fell off the dresser, floated like a feather through the air, and landed face up beside her. She grabbed it and stared longingly through teary eyes. Jason had his arms over her shoulder. They both smiled at the camera fiercely. She picked it up and quietly pocketed it before Charlie could see. Who knows if he'd tried to take it from her? He didn't like her having anything that wasn't approved by him. Jenna Lee decided to stop thinking about Charlie. She had escaped and she didn't have to live in fear anymore. She had no immediate plan for the future. Maybe she tried to reach out to Amanda, her former BFF and once soon-to-be sister-in-law. She was sure that if her once-upon-a-time bestie knew her situation, she'd be more than willing to get her on her feet. They hadn't talked in a few months, but they had cried on each other's shoulders many times before, so Jenna Lee figured her odds would be good. She grabbed her phone, scrolled through her contacts, and pressed on Amanda Hart. Jenna Lee was surprised after she heard Amanda's voice after the first ring. "Jenna, my God, how are you?" said Amanda, radiating with genuine curiosity. Jenna Lee paused, inhaled deeply and audibly before responding. "Honestly, I've been better." "Really? What's been going on? Everything okay?" No." Jenna Lee's voice crackled as she held back rivers of tears from overflowing. "No, it's not. I left. I ran. I had to get away from him. From Charlie." "Oh my God, you left Greenbrook? Where are you? What happened? What did he do to you?" Amanda asked, concern resonating through her words. "I got on a bus. I don't even know where it's going. I just had to get away from him. Couldn't handle it anymore. I know that Jason would have wanted me to live and try to, I don't know, find some sort of semblance of happiness, even though I know I don't deserve it," Jenna Lee said, believing every word. "Jenna, you do deserve happiness. You're an amazing person, and you don't deserve whatever he's putting you through. Jace would have been proud of you for getting out of there. I'm proud of you. I know we haven't talked recently, but I'm glad you called me. What are your plans? Do you have anywhere to go?" Jenna Lee began to sob. Her eyes were broken dams overflowing now, years' worth of pressure and buildup emerging. A part of her regretted leaving so suddenly and arbitrarily without making a plan first, and now she felt guilty for making Amanda feel obligated to shoulder some of the weight of her problems. The last thing she wanted was to be viewed as a burden, especially by her. "I'll figure it out. Don't worry. I just have to get my bearings and I'll be okay," said Jenna Lee, regretting calling Amanda on a whim and trying to take advantage of her kind nature. "Fuck that. You're coming here, at least until you get on your feet," said Amanda matter-of-factly. "Amanda," began Jenna Lee before cutting her off. "Shut up," said Amanda. "You're coming and that's not negotiable. And do me a favor, all right? Don't say you don't want to impose or that you don't want to be a burden on me. You're not. It's my idea and that's all there is to it, okay?" Jenna Lee chuckled as she wiped the tears from her eyes. She had forgotten how amazing Amanda could be and how it was almost as if she could tell what Jenna was thinking and knew exactly what to say to comfort her. She was a true friend. Jenna Lee knew there was no arguing with her. She spoke softly after a long, reflective beat of acceptance. "Thank you, Amanda. I promise you I'll make it up to you. I'm sorry." Amanda cut her off again. "Jenna, don't apologize. You did nothing wrong. You're doing nothing wrong. You did the right thing. I can't stress that enough. Okay, so first things first. Find out where this bus is going and let me know so I can come and get you." "I will. I'll ask the driver. All I know is that it's like a 300-mile drive, hopefully in the direction towards you." "I just got on the bus about 10 minutes ago," said Jenna, crying finally under control. "Okay, let me know. And Jenna, I just want you to know that it's going to be okay. I love you," said Amanda, choking up. Jenna Lee felt her heart surge with hope and gratitude. "I love you too. Talk soon. Bye," she said and ended the call. She stuffed her phone back into the pocket and rose from her seat. She took a few steps and stood beside the driver. "Excuse me," Jenna Lee said. "Can you tell me what town this bus is headed for?"
"Sure, we're headed towards Buffalo. Got a long drive through these hills. We're looking at 5 or 6 hours at least with the current weather conditions," said the driver stoically.
"Buffalo," said Jenna Lee to herself under her breath. "That's only a few hours away from Pittsburgh." She grabbed her phone once again and unlocked the screen. "No service" was in all caps across the top of the screen with the signal bars crossed out beside it. "Shit," said Jenna Lee, putting her phone back in her pocket again.
What's that, honey?
Asked the bus driver. Sorry, nothing. Do you know how long we'll be traveling through these hills? I just don't have any service on my phone, said Jenna Lee impatiently. The driver glanced beside her and angled her nose down, looking over the top of her glasses at Jenna Lee, smacking gum obnoxiously as she stared for a moment, almost in a contemplative manner before replying.
At least a couple of hours, sweetheart. Maybe longer. Really depends on the weather. You've picked a hell of a night for travel, if you don't mind my saying so.
Jenna Lee glared at the old driver, annoyed. Yeah, well, I didn't exactly have time to consider all the variables, she said as she walked away from the driver and back to her seat. The driver didn't seem to hear her words, or if she did, she didn't seem to care, as she kept her sagging face glued to the snowy road in front of her. Jenna Lee pulled out her phone once again and began to text a message to Amanda. Hey, not sure when you'll get this since I'm driving through East Bumfuck at the moment and lost all service, but I'm headed towards Buffalo. We're about a 6-hour drive away, depending on the weather. Hopefully it doesn't get much worse. I'm sorry for this, Mandy. I really didn't want to involve you in this. I just didn't know where else to turn. Mom still blames me, even though she won't say it, for Jason. So that was never an option. I guess I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here for me, even though I haven't been there for you. After Jace, I shut down and turned all my focus to Charlie, and this is where it led me. I should have been there for you too. I wasn't the only one who lost him that day, and I'm sorry I shut you out and wasn't there. I just didn't want to be reminded of him. It was too painful. Here we are again, with you coming to my rescue. You're a true friend, Mandy, and again, I'm sorry. Sorry for the rant, and sorry for a million things in a million different ways. Text me when you get this. TTYS, love you. She was crying now again. She felt that that was all she did now. She had a million reasons, after all. Wasn't hard to find an excuse. She knew that she was pathetic, and wondered how anyone could ever love her, and actually wanted to help her, and see her happy. She deserved Charlie and what he did to her. It was her fault. Jace, what had happened to him? He wouldn't have even been there if it wasn't for her. She hated herself and wanted to die. She shouldn't have left. She should have stayed with Charlie until he finally beat her to death. That way she could find Jace in an afterlife and tell him how sorry she was and how much she loved him and missed him. She didn't want to deal with this life without him and all the pain of his memory that haunted her every waking moment. She was tired, so fucking tired of it all. She started to close her eyes as she leaned her head against the window next to her, thinking of Jason's face, tears rolling down her cheeks as she fell into a well-staved-off but inevitable sleep. Well, folks, that's our story tonight. Rothrick and I hope you enjoyed it. We sure had a great time bringing it to you, and we really appreciate you listening. Tune in next week when we bring you another chilling tale from the Dark Chamber. And just a note, if you're an aspiring author and you want your story read here on Tales from the Dark Chamber, send us a note at talesfromthedarkchamber@gmail.com. If it creeps old Rothrick out enough, we'll air it. And subscribe to our podcast for notification of our next new episode, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Tales from the Dark Chamber and follow us on Instagram or Twitter. If you want your story read for your own use, or you just want to have it, check out my website at woodygvoiceover.net. You can order there, or you can find me on Upwork as Woody G. And again, thank you for listening tonight.